Hi, my name is Ahmed Henry. I'm presenting an interpersonal communication project today. Several main points I would like to address today in my presentation include the sharing of my overarching goal, how it's affected by my personal communication style, a little about my behavioral blend and background based on my uniquely you profile, my own communication barriers and issues that I have discovered throughout this class, the resources and strategies I hope to implement to address my own communication challenges, and lastly, my action plan that I'm putting into practice to address these communication deficits. My overarching goal is twofold. My overarching career goal is to become a more effective counselor by providing the crucial listening skills of empathy, warmth, and genuineness to my clients. This goal is important to me because as a professional counselor, 3/4 of being a good counselor is being a good listener, according to Peterson. My overarching personal goal is to be a better listener in personal relationships and to learn ways to reduce passivity in relationships and increase more level 2 communication. As I improve my communication, the quality of my relationship should improve as well. The whole goal of this class has been to identify why we don't listen and learn the ways and strategies to listen better to improve the quality of our relationships and our life. A little about my behavioral blend and background. My uniquely you assessment profile graph 1, what people expect of me, identifies me as a strong, submissive, competent type. On my second graph 2, this is me, I was described as a competent specialist personality type. I was repeatedly told that I am more a passive type and people interpret me as withdrawn. It was also stated that I do not like big groups but am motivated to help others. I am people-oriented but prefer to be one-on-one rather than in large groups. Being more a passive type has been a big challenge for me as a professional counselor. When I first started individual counseling, I was nervous and anxious, but through God's grace, I persevered and got through it. The same with facilitating groups. When I ran my first group, it had 25 people. I wasn't nervous and anxious, but I got through it. In retrospect, now I laugh. However, even today, when I facilitate big groups of 20 or so, I still get nervous and little butterflies in my stomach. I counter this beforehand by always praying for God's grace to bring me through and to be a blessing to the hearers. I've also learned that if I prepare beforehand what I'm going to say, this makes a big difference. My professional training as a counselor has influenced me to be a better listener in many ways. One, when doing assessments, I listen carefully to each detail to carefully formulate a DSM diagnosis for substance abuse. Secondly, my background as a Christian has influenced me not to be judgmental, but to look at a client as a person with worth and value made in God's image. Communication barriers. Some significant interpersonal communication barriers in my own personal relationships include not acknowledging the other person and their feelings. Another is a lack of awareness in how emotions can hijack my rational thinking. Also, at times, I find myself not fully listening to another's point of view, but instead formulating and rehearsing my own response to get my point across with the attitude of usually winning at all costs. The issue of owning a client's problem or feeling I must have a solution to fix this client has been an issue on occasions. Not guarding against wanting to give advice, failing to realize that I am a support helper, such as a midwife. Allowing passivity to keep me from more level 2 communication with others. All these hinder in building an effective therapeutic alliance with the client. Another big communication barrier is with my secular clients and people in general in the world is to remember that there are two different competing worldviews. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 4 states, "They think it is strange that you do not plunge with them into the same flood of dispensation, and they heap abuse on you." It's important to realize that part of that communication barrier is one, we are the church, two, they are the world. Resources and strategies. Well, several resources and strategies I plan to utilize to help correct my communication deficits include utilizing Peterson's talker-listener card. Second, being mindful of the flat-brain syndrome in my communication and relationships. Also being mindful of Francis Wackel's component of empathic listening and reflecting back with new, fresh words with an emphasis on underlying surface feelings. Another important strategy is the principle of reframing or changing perspective. Not owning another person's problem, but realizing the relationship with a client is an alliance, according to Peterson. Lastly, being more mindful of all the rich scriptures as a resource, which talk about the power of the tongue in communication. My action plan consists of 8 specific listening skills I plan to add and implement to become a better listener and communicator. 1. Aim for more communication balancing by creating a talker-listener card on my desk to remind myself to listen fully until the other person is finished. Listening to the other person speak without judging and then give my input. Also being mindful of Stewart's exhale-inhale metaphor. Also remembering Peterson's concept of not owning another person or client's problem. If a person explodes or I'm verbally attacked, realize the other person has the issue or the flat brain syndrome. Remembering I do not have to fix them. I'm only here to help. Also remembering the concepts of the flat brain tangle in Stewart's degenerative spirals. Remembering the flat brain theory and how the brain becomes hijacked through a swollen belly of emotion. Monitoring toxic emotions. Also being mindful of Peterson's listening technique of reframing the rigidity. No absolutionist views. Modify black and white or polarized thinking, not adopting a win at any cost attitude. Also assume there may be some truth to the other party in their conviction. People often hear and listen but will interpret or filter the other person's words and give it their meaning according to their mindset, feelings, or beliefs. In a peer-related article from Australian Psychiatry entitled Communication Skills in Psychiatry Training, they state ineffective clinical communication practices have been linked to poor patient mental health outcomes and experiences. Mental health clinicians can experience problems communicating distressing diagnostic information to patients, especially concerning mental illness. However, evidence suggests that interpersonal communication skills can be effectively taught. Communication between patients and clinicians is a simultaneous two-way interpersonal experience where effective communication results in better outcomes for both patients and clinicians. Enhanced outcomes for patients include higher satisfaction, improved insight, better treatment adherence. For clinicians, more accurate identification of patient problems, as well as reduced distress. This study demonstrates basically the importance of good communication in the mental health setting, especially in regards to making and ensuring diagnoses and in treatment. Also, reflect what the client has communicated with fresh words to summarize essential thoughts and feelings expressed. All the various readings overall have impressed me upon the importance to reflect, mirror, and paraphrase, to concentrate more on paraphrasing with inflection. According to a peer-reviewed article in British Journal of Nursing entitled Communication Skills Count, certain Arthur Davies gave an example of how positive inspirational communication in the hospital ward made a tremendous difference in outcomes. He describes the ward as one where communication was valued, an environment where courteous, non-judgmental communication seemed to have positive effects for patients and staff. The ward was friendly and it was warm. The author adds, it is this emphasis on person-centered practice within the workplace that provides the most positive impact on the patient. Also, according to Peterson, looking deeper to both the words and intentions beneath them, the tone and the inflection, learning to recognize the hurt and anger in others' emotions or in a person's speech, understanding and recognizing those surface feelings in tone being expressed and looking for meta-messaging. Next, reframing, looking for new ways to constantly reframe issues, hopefully in a more positive light. This is the heart of cognitive therapy. Lastly, practice assertive communication to help with my own passivity. Focus more on what Peterson calls level 2 communication in personal relationships. Level 2 communication goes deeper than words. It moves us towards more satisfying relationships where we develop trust, intimacy, and personal sharing, according to Peterson. In my conclusion, I would then like to end with several closing statements. One, out of Proverbs 18:21. Words kill, words give life. They're either poison or fruit. You choose. Another quote from Peterson is, empathy is the grace of God quality in people. Peterson also says, listening well can improve how effectively you work with your business associates, co-workers, and community volunteers. It helps keep friendships vital. It grounds effective counseling, teaching, selling, conflict resolution, parenting, and learning. As a counselor, we often don't realize what an impact our caring and how a few choice words at the right time can be a catalyst for someone else to do great things. We should never doubt it's God's instrument that our positive words and encouragement and acknowledgement can provide more impact than we could ever imagine. So, Dr. Wheatley, I would like to thank you for this class. I've learned quite a bit, and God bless. Amen.